have a look. And now.
Sounds like a lot happened here.
What hasn't happened? This area is where Tevinter Magisters destroyed Arlathan City centuries ago. A whole lot of blood magic during the war.
And now?
Whatever Solus did stirred up everything again. The old blood magic from the war never went away. Ancient relics appear out of thin air, ruins float. It's like an old wound that never healed. Now it's bleeding again.
What a view.
That was the capital city, Arlathan. This is what's left of it after the war.
I don't imagine it flowed.
Rook, you ready to go?
Harding, you sure you're up for it?
I'm fine. I need to get back in the fight.
Then let's go.
I've never seen fog this thick in Demetta's Crossing. This isn't right. The dock usually has people bringing goods to market, bartering and shouting. Always busy.
Something happened here.
Stay sharp.
It's so quiet.
Too quiet.
Where is everybody? It's market day. People should be out selling eggs and buying bread. But everything's just abandoned.
They barricaded the main entrance into town.
There's blight in there. I can feel it. Be careful.
It's blight. Even worse than in the forest.
They need to stay in. We'll be rewarded. All of us. Everyone has to stay.
Someone used hell for magic to dominate the minds of these villagers.
Welcome back to the Space School. It was with PPSW Streaming Now Place, and today we're back with another Star Wars story. Today we'll discover what would have happened had Qui-Gon's teacher, Master Dooku, trained the Jedi's Chosen One. How would Dooku have trained this Jedi that was meant to be his former student's trainee? Before we begin this video, a special thanks to our patrons, voice actors, and everyone else part of the Penny Patrol team. If you want a chance to win our next giveaway, watch the end of the video and I'll tell you all about it. Our story begins on Coruscant 32 BBY. Master Dooku was one of the prideful achievements of Master Yoda's grand teaching career. He sat idle in his room, concentrating. In recent years, Dooku had gotten fed up with the Jedi Council. He was offered a seat on the High Council alongside of that of his good friend, Mace Windu, and his master, Grand Master Yoda. But Dooku refused the seat. Dooku was very forward-thinking of a Jedi. His thoughts dwelled on things more grand scale than the Jedi Code. He knew his politics well, and he understood the greater need for the Jedi to be better in the galaxy. The Jedi had become way too political for Dooku, and the Jedi's reliance on approval from the Senate was ruining their output into the galaxy. Dooku sat quietly. He focused on the Force. It was surrounding him. It was powerful, and then he felt a terrible, terrible pain. Dooku rolled back off the seat as he looked around. He stood up, and he felt his head. As he leaned against the wall, something terrible had just happened. As he pondered through his thoughts, he was trying to figure out why he felt this terrible sadness inside of him. Dooku looked around. Coruscant was dark. It had just turned to night, and he was preparing for rest. With this pain in his chest, it was unreal. Dooku had recently talked to some individuals within the Order. It felt like a death, in all honesty. He was close to leaving the Order, and he had just told his former apprentice. Then it crossed his mind. Not just the feeling, but the images. He watched the soul leave Qui-Gon's face as the echoing no rang out of Qui-Gon's student's mouth. Obi-Wan watched as if Master was gutted in front of him on the planet of Naboo. And he was all alone with no one to help him. Dooku fell to his knees. For the first time in the longest time, he felt true pain in his heart. Dooku looked around his room, and he saw his little bedside table, a braid. It was a gift from a student to him. Qui-Gon would have never wanted to keep it, but he gave it to his master because he was thankful for the experience, lessons, and the time he was gifted to have with Master Dooku. Qui-Gon had a lot of appreciation for his master, and he wanted to stay close with him. Dooku and Qui-Gon had a great relationship after their teaching together. They bonded really well, and even more so, their beliefs matched each other's perfectly. Qui-Gon often talked with Dooku about training Obi-Wan, because Obi-Wan was extremely loyal to the Jedi Code, and he didn't think about what could be seen outside of the Jedi Code. It wasn't a knock on Kenobi, he just played by the rules. Dooku admired Obi-Wan, and even more than just admiring, he greatly respected his grand student. Dooku sighed. The image played in his head again and again, as he saw Qui-Gon fall lifelessly to the ground. Dooku didn't know what would happen to Kenobi alone, but he did know that Obi-Wan was skilled enough to hold his own and stand up to the likes of the Sith assassin that killed Qui-Gon. Dooku then moved back up to his seat as he sat quietly with his head in his hands. He closed his eyes and thought about leaving the Order, believing that if Qui-Gon was killed, the chances of Obi-Wan dying were just as likely. Dooku stood up and moved over to unpacking everything in his room and preparing to move back to his homeworld of Serenno. Dooku then remembered something as he stood silently in the dark room. He remembered a conversation he had with Qui-Gon before he left for Naboo. Dooku felt the presence inside of the Jedi Temple, but he believed that this boy that Qui-Gon had mentioned was in fact the Chosen One, because Qui-Gon was going to try and train him after all. Dooku never interacted or even saw this Chosen One, but Dooku remembered Qui-Gon said before leaving. He said that the Council wouldn't let him train the boy. He might as well stick it to the Council and to the Order once more. And while he believed that leaving the Order and becoming the 20th member of the Lost 19 would be a pretty strong hit to Master Yoda, he could figure out that maybe treating the most powerful being in the galaxy, the most powerful being the galaxy I've ever seen, in the ways of the Force, instead of letting him be taken by the Sith, or let the Jedi get their grubby coat all over
You're
him,
the mayor of this
Dooku
town.
decided this was the idea to go with. Especially since Dooku knew that Anakin was several years older than anyone permitted into the Order itself.
You
The
gave them to
Dooku had two
gods,
ideas. The first one being that he'd leave the Order and take the boy with him, or that instead he'd join the Council and tell them that he would train the boy on behalf of them. The seats were relatively filled on the Council, so that may prompt be an issue for him. But there was also another way for him to do this perfectly. He just needed the trust that the Force would guide him on this endeavor. Dooku moved out of his room and made his way for the Jedi Council chambers. Master Yoda was usually up during the night, and he assumed that the best way to have a conversation with the Grand Master alone would be now, when there would be no one other than maybe Master Plo Koon or Yaddle still awake in the council chambers. Most of the other members were usually asleep by this point. Dooku walked out of his room and walked through the temple corridors. He nodded at those who he knew and smiled at those who he didn't. Dooku was well known throughout the Order. He was the final student of Grand Master Yoda, and he was one of the best duelists the Order had. Dooku stopped when he was confronted by an older man. Jedi Master Sunube asked Dooku what was bothering him. Dooku towered over the Jedi Master as he told him that it was nothing. Hera smiled, and he told Dooku that no matter how old he got, he would always wear his emotion on his face. Dooku sighed. He told Master Sunube he had a premonition or a vision of a student dying on Naboo. Though Dooku knew it was neither. He knew that the Force worked in mysterious ways, and he knew that the Force was showing him what had happened. His bond to Qui-Gon was extremely close, and because of that bond, he was able to see this very troubling vision of the truth that just happened to bestow upon his student. Hera apologized for Dooku's loss, before telling him that Qui-Gon was a great joy to be around, and he would be surely missed. Dooku thanked him and walked away after bowing, before realizing what Master Sunube said. Dooku turned around and the Master was gone. Did Dooku say his thoughts out loud, or did Sunube feel it? He wasn't really sure, but Dooku walked to the elevator as it took him up to the council chambers. Dooku walked in and looked at the three Masters gathered in there. Plo Koon was still as a mountain, and Yaddle and Yoda spoke to each other quietly, trying not to disturb Master Plo. Dooku had respect for Plo Koon. He was a great Jedi, because he was a Baron Do Sage at one point in his life. These sages had so much more of an open concept of existence within the Force. Plo wasn't tied to the code like the other members of the High Council, but he was one of the wisest Jedi inside the Order, entering his late 300s. Dooku then looked over to the two aging Jedi Masters who turned their attention to Dooku. Yoda smiled, and cared about Dooku a lot. He was one of his most prized students, as he asked what Dooku would like to discuss, assuming that Dooku would like to talk about becoming a member of the High Council, or something along those lines. Dooku was about to speak, and then the blinds closed. Dooku stepped out of the way as a communication was coming in from Naboo. The three Jedi Masters expected to get a report from Qui-Gon Jinn, but it was the contrary. It was Obi-Wan Kenobi. He looked lazy, and he looked as if he had been crying. Yoda asked what would happen to him, as he told the four Jedi beforehand that Master Qui-Gon had been killed by the Sith assassin. Obi-Wan then told him that he killed this assassin, when Qui-Gon had just about died by the time he got around to him. Yoda sighed. He asked Obi-Wan about the rest of the invasion. Obi-Wan told him that Anakin blew up the Trade Federation blockade over the planet, while the Gungans won the battle in the fields, and the Queen seized the throne room and captured New Gunray. Yoda told Obi-Wan that the Council would be there to memorialize Qui-Gon. Obi-Wan asked what his orders were, and Yoda simply told him to stay put. The communication ended as Dooku looked at Yoda, who asked what he would like to talk about again. Dooku told Yoda he would like to train the Chosen One. Yoda rubbed his chin. This was certainly a divisive topic.
Did you find our scouts?
Just like some of the
They're
other
dead.
members of the council, including
I'm sorry.
Francis, Eve Hawk, and John
Elganon and Gillenane sacrificed them in some kind of ritual.
While the rest of the members had a
Creators.
neutral position on how they felt
What about
was
the rest of
issue.
the village?
Told Yoda that
The
Qui-Gon would
ritual
train the
spread
boy
blight
regardless of what
everywhere.
was said. And then
The entire village was overrun.
The few who survived are controlled by blood magic. Their minds are gone.
Elgarnon and Gillenane use them like puppets.
Moments after this was said, Base Would Do walked into the room, followed closely by Keelan Ridley and Heath Collin. They asked what this was about, and so they expressed that Master Dooku.
I dare say it was a show of force.
They all asked what prompted this, as Yoda responded, telling the three, "Whoever is a quiet,
They will not rest until you are on your knees, fearful, cowering, helpless in the face of such power."
Lady Morrigan?
She's simply Morrigan to you, Scout Harding. What a pleasure to see you again.
Rook, this is Morgan, an old acquaintance. I thought she could help.
Morrigan helped the Inquisition when Varric and I were part of it. She knew more about ancient magic than anyone, except Solus.
'Twas both pleasure and necessity to help them, as it is now. Stopping Elganon and Gillenane shall require many hands.
Wasn't like the rest of his peers. Mace asked Dooku that if Anakin were permitted into the Order, what would he do in terms of training Anakin with a group of students? Dooku nodded his head, and he knew that Anakin would be treated badly as he would be an outcast to his peers. So he told them that instead he would like to take Anakin under his wing and train
So,
him away.
who are you exactly?
I have borne many appellations. Advisor to Orlais, Witch of the Wilds, friend to the Inquisition. My place here, however, is but a humble advisor on matters arcane.
Witch of the Wilds.
An honorific, born of rumor and exaggeration. The fearsome reputations of your opponents, however, are duly earned. This dark turn of events shall only become worse.
Suggesting that Yoda should do the same and trust the
Then I look forward to your help.
How refreshing. Your cooperative nature is appreciated in return.
What can you tell us about all this?
As dangerous as Solus himself may be, his imprisonment of the gods was just. To leave them unchecked would have been the very end of Thedas.
For Anakin, she was willing to make the sacrifice on behalf of Qui-Gon. Though Dooku was unaware of the promise that Obi-Wan had made to Qui-Gon before his death. The council, over the course of the next few hours...
Just to be clear, you know your old friend Solus is actually the Dreadwolf?
So I have come to learn. It rather explains how he knew such a great deal of ancient elven history, and why he became so vexed when I attempted to explain it to him. Whilst I cannot claim the same depth of knowledge, the knowledge I do possess is yours for the asking.
I hope it helps. For all we know, the entire world will look like Demetus Crossing once the gods are through.
Anakin would go well for both parties, for the Jedi and for Anakin, especially considering its secrets of Dooku would be isolated from the rest of the Jedi Order, giving Anakin adequate time to adjust to being a Jedi. Yoda went through a similar process, though it was fair to say that maybe being a
Not if we stop it
student,
first.
he was a little bit
Ah,
biased in
the
this
confidence
scenario.
of youth. We shall need a good deal more of it.
I suppose you have some advice.
Set aside your notions of godhood and see them for the ancient, powerful mages they are. Standing against them shall require serious magic of your own. When you interrupted the Dreadwolf's ritual, did you happen across any of the tools he used?
He had a dagger, but it got lost in the chaos.
Then you would do well to find it. 'Tis better in your hands than those of the gods.
Is there anything else Solus might have had that could help us? We're in his... well, he calls it the Lighthouse.
Ah, yes, the legendary sanctum of the Dreadwolf. 'Tis said his Illuvian, the Viravas, could travel to any other Illuvian of his choosing.
That's not how it works right now. It only goes to Arlithin.
I can take a look at it. Maybe fix it even. I know Illuvians better than most.
Any help you can offer, we'd appreciate.
If Illuvians even work the same way, all the magic is different now. Our gods are back. Our gods! And they're killing people and blinding the world. How do we stand up against that?
And the Chancellor to return the Coruscant. Anakin was ready to become a Jedi, but he wasn't ready for it secretly.
None of us can do this alone. We can stop them together. Alara, you're one of the only people in the world who can get our Illuvian working. Harding can track down Valyrian dagger, and Nev can spot any clues we might miss that give us more information. Let's get to work. There's a lot of fight ahead of us.
Anakin would be
Indeed.
escorted
Prepare
into the
yourselves
inner wing
well
of the
and
Jedi
have a
Temple.
care in your
Once they
choices.
finally arrived on
These are the times
Coruscant,
in which
he was
legends are
separated from
born
everyone,
or
and his
slain.
history was written
In this
all
battle,
across his
I
face.
shall
It was
render
clearly
whatever
visible.
assistance I am able.
Followed the council members
Right.
back up into the council
Let's move.
chambers, where he would wait for their response. Once all the members sat down, they looked around at one another, and then Yoda told Master Dooku that Kenobi was granted the role of teaching Skywalker. Dooku was very confused, as he then asked why Obi-Wan would be pushed into teaching the role of the Chosen One, rather than a normal or even an already established Jedi Master. Yoda said that Obi-Wan promised Qui-Gon to teach the boy the ways of the Force. It was his final promise to Qui-Gon, and he wouldn't take no for an answer. Dooku respected Obi-Wan for staying so dedicated to this, but there was an issue. Obi-Wan was only a Jedi Padawan who can possibly unite takes the role
You
of
can do
Jedi
this,
Master.
Reese. It's gotta be
It wasn't
done.
that Dooku didn't believe Obi-Wan could train the boy. It was more of how well he could train Anakin. Because Anakin wasn't a normal boy. Had he been born inside the Order
I
and
should have
raised
taken
as
the
a
shot.
Jedi, there'd be no
That would have
issue
made
with it,
things
but Anakin
worse.
needed a father
don't
figure,
know that.
and someone that was
All you
a
have are
decade or
guesses.
so older than him.
We're up against
wouldn't
something
exactly
unfamiliar,
fit that
working with more
fatherly
rumors
role
than facts. Of course, that's all I
especially
have.
a fatherly role.
I should have
like
taken the
that
shot.
demanded excellence. But Dooku told the
You didn't
council
take the
that
shot?
he would like to talk to
I
Kenobi
destroyed
about
the
training the
statue.
boy. Yoda
Who do you
told
want to blame
Dooku to be
more for the
wary.
outcome?
Kenobi wouldn't
We all
budge.
did what we thought was
Dooku
best
told
in the
Master Yoda
moment.
to trust in his
And
ability
look where
to
it
get the
got
right
us.
thing done. Dooku
Trying to
bowed
stop
the
the world
council
from
and
being
walked out
swallowed
of the
by chaos,
chambers.
and now it
He
might
knew
be
that
swallowed
Kenobi
by
would
chaos
be in the
anyway.
changing room.
Elven
So that's
gods
where he
escaped
went.
from their prison.
Dooku left
Solus
the
is in your
elevator
head,
once he got to
and
the
we're
bottom,
scrambling
inside
to
the
figure out
grand
what to
halls
do.
of the Jedi Temple.
And Varric.
Dooku looked around
Varric
and
knew
then
the
she
risks.
found his way to the corridor
He
where
knew
the
what it
Master
might cost.
were.
We're
Walking
still
through the
standing.
area, he felt
The
Kenobi's
fight's not
presence
over.
as he turned the
You
corner.
know, I like that about you, Lace.
Standing
You don't
quietly
stop
beside
fighting,
Donnie's
you
room.
push for
Obi-Wan
answers
no
and
longer had his
action,
Padawan braid,
while I can
but
get
his
stuck
hair
on
was
questions
short and
forever.
stiff as he turned around
Well,
and bowed to Master Dooku.
We need someone who can
Dooku
put
and
the
Obi-Wan
pieces of the
smiled at
puzzle
one
together.
another, as Kenobi told
Fighting
Dooku
the
that
unknown.
Qui-Gon was a fine
Exactly.
Jedi, experienced,
Everyone had a
mature,
part to play.
wise,
Barrick
kind.
brought us together
Obi-Wan
because of our
thanked Dooku for
strengths.
providing a Jedi
He wanted
Master
a
in
team he could
Qui-Gon
rely on.
that gifted him an
We
extraordinary
have to be
training
that team.
experience.
Play to our
Dooku smiled and
strengths.
patted Kenobi on the back.
And
as
rely
Dooku
on
walked
each
across the room and looked out the
I think I
window.
can manage that.
Placing both of his
Then
hands
let's
behind
find
his back,
Solus's
Dooku
dagger.
spoke up and
It'll be a
asked
start.
Kenobi if he was ready to train Skywalker. Obi-Wan said in a quick, without thought, "Yes, Master." Dooku was honestly surprised to hear such a confident and quick response from Kenobi. Dooku then turned around and asked Obi-Wan if he could assist him with training Skywalker. Obi-Wan was confused. He asked if it was forbidden for two Jedi to train a single student. Dooku smiled. He told Obi-Wan that it was more common in ancient times. Nowadays, it was more uncommon, but it didn't go against the code. Dooku didn't really care about the code,
There's
but he
magic
did
lingering
play
in
to
the
Obi-Wan's
spot.
game
Strong,
until he had
bold.
become Skywalker
The dagger
teacher.
was here.
Dooku also knew how
Something
powerful
took it.
Obi-Wan would become if he let go of the Jedi code and harnessed his own true potential. Though that was a project for another day. Dooku asked Obi-Wan what he thought of this proposition. Obi-Wan shrugged his shoulders, trying to be as kind as
Darkspawn.
Dooku.
Oh no, what if it took the dagger?
Anakin seriously.
Only one way to find
He
out.
just wanted to make his full master proud of him. Dooku told Obi-Wan that if he agreed,
Look, there it
that
goes.
Anakin would think the Jedi Temple needed him. Obi-Wan asked him why they would do that. Dooku looked at Obi-Wan as he told him that Anakin would suffer and the classes with the other
Big
runways.
Darkspawn coming
It
right
was
at us.
assumption, but in fact, Dooku told Obi-Wan that the longer he waited, the longer Anakin would suffer. He said that Qui-Gon would have wanted Anakin to learn away from years because he would be greater than he but it didn't grow and grow and it was such a big jump. The mindset of it from understanding his powers and neutrality, all things that China and people want to be working with, but to the focus and to the ability. As we like to call it in the darkness, or the power of the council, to try to oust them, preventing their downfall. Obi-Wan's strong traumas is.
We have to go after that ghoul. Let's get this gate open.
Look up there, that magical device.
So it's time to believe everything Dooku had to say. Obi-Wan told Dooku that he would think about it. There was a lot for him to think about in this process. Like, would he be able to have an effect on Skywalker? Would Dooku take over the training entirely? Could Anakin thrive with two masters? What would the Council think? What happened if Anakin didn't connect well with the Jedi? Who would continue packing up Qui-Gon's materials as the thoughts drained on him? Dooku would return to meditation, and he would also spend time in the archives. Jocasta would love Dooku. She thought it was rather dashing. Regardless, Dooku was inside the archives to find some locations. Of course, the Skywalker
Let's keep
like
on the
just
trail.
around. It was a peaceful planet, and they were doing things rather modestly, like they were here inside the temple. But Dooku believed that Skywalker needed to earn it. Jocasta and Dooku would spend 3 weeks searching for planets. They found the first few in a couple of days, but Obi-Wan was taking forever to make his
Darkspawn don't
decision.
usually collect
Obi-Wan
things.
was rather being
They
selfish
don't,
with
to my
Anakin,
knowledge,
and he
but
himself knew
Solus's
it
dagger is
was.
special.
But the
They might
truth
be
is
drawn
that
to
he
it.
didn't want to let Anakin go. He saw this as paying homage to his former master, as completing a promise, if you will.
Anyone spot that
Obi-Wan
ghoul?
didn't think
It
that
must have come this
Qui-Gon
way.
just wanted Skywalker to be trained. Of course, Qui-Gon knew Obi-Wan could do it, but he really wanted Anakin to just be trained, so he didn't fall into the hands of the dark side force, when
Look
he
out.
could be
More
manipulated to
darkspawn
the most
ahead.
powerful beings the galaxy had ever seen. Dooku had a plan in mind for how he would teach Anakin.
For
Knowing
ya.
that Anakin was from Tatooine would help Dooku with his plan of teaching Skywalker the ways of the Force. On the second day of the third week, Obi-Wan approached Master Dooku. He apologized to Dooku for all the time that it took.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Did you empower and Cleo?
Already did. Already did.
Have you done?
Yes. Yes, I did.
Okay. All right. Just want to check. Dad's got a nail in his heart. He's got to get it matched, but we don't know how much it's going to be.
Okay.
Company.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Dooku smiled and asked if Obi-Wan was ready to treat Anakin along beside him. Dooku nodded his head with a smile. Obi-Wan was worried about this. Fast
That had to hurt.
and voice. Dooku thought and thought as he felt through the voice. His mind to trust me. He knew that there was much that he had learned from this. His choice and his class of young ones. For a mission, with sweeping eyes and half one mission. Children's in the classroom was like age 1. Having to tell anyone the class on mission, propping up with a pencil at
Do
their
this
eyes.
again.
Jealous, but it would also make them sure that the students they understood that Dooku was strong with this quickly and Dooku, on the other hand, had a show prepared and talked to a couple of Jedi Masters who wanted to
Did you find the dagger?
He gave them a
I don't
couple
think
of
these
things
Darkspawn took
before
it.
left, and
Let's
time
keep
frame.
moving.
Dooku was wise about this, as wise as he could. He knew that training the Jedi's truly what required wisdom and patience, and so, when the two young Jedi arrived in the hangar bay, they were brought aboard the Jedi shuttle. Dooku didn't want to tell them where they were going, to the pregnant ship, and before they left, he introduced himself to Anakin as his new teacher. Obi-Wan smiled as Anakin stuck close to Obi-Wan. Anakin didn't really care for anyone, anywhere. The only friend he made inside the temple was the young by the name of Barriss Offee. She was in his class, and she was one of the few in his class that didn't bully him for being an outsider. Anakin was a little distrusting of the Jedi, and Obi-Wan really understood this, as Anakin stuck close to Obi-Wan's side. Anakin looked at Dooku and smiled, and sat down in the Bay Area, as Obi-Wan and Dooku prepared to take off. As the two masters entered the cockpit, Dooku told Obi-Wan about what he was talking about, and how Anakin was already being affected by what the Jedi had done to him. They allowed him to suffer, and while he was already at the top of his class, they held him back. Obi-Wan understood what Dooku was saying, and apologized. He trusted he wanted to do the best for Skywalker, and Dooku didn't know this, but he wanted to ensure that It did something before something terrible happened to Anakin. Regardless, the two took off, and within minutes, they were in hyperspace en route to the gospel little planet around the Big Bang. It wasn't necessarily
Over
in the
there.
war, but it was
Oh,
around the
Daggett
outskirts of it. For the time being,
More
give himself
light in
a
the
point
way.
to Skywalker. Here's how quick Anakin was to respond and distribute. So he was used to knowing how to follow the average smuggler or plug. Anakin was convinced. It was obvious that the anxiety of always having to watch his back stuck with him. After a few hours, Kubrick landed on the planet. Anakin was the first one down the ramp, expecting to see a lush green planet of grass, but that
Nicely
was
done.
not.
I mean, it's
General was
gross,
a planet
but
full
you
of
can't
grass
argue
and
with the results.
deserts. The planet was very similar to Tatooine, except they connected all the way back to the ancient Jedi Order. It was a way for the three Jedi to connect back to their roots and search for balance. Dooku knew this that would be important because it meant that Anakin was back on a planet just like his homeworld, and he could search for balance within himself. If he could find that balance within himself, he would become a truly amazing Jedi. First, Dooku told the two that they would be going to Jedha City. The City had issues from crime and greed. Sometimes it was peaceful, but since the Jedi left the city, they had been on the verge of turmoil. Now, there was one reason for Dooku, but he wanted to bring Anakin to Jedha City. It was good choice to search for it. They had been long friends of the Jedi, and most of them would have no substance. He had been the city. He watched Anakin as he came online, and he was still rather cold from being inside of the Jedi Temple and the duration of the city. Once he entered the city, he seemed like a living with the environment. So the other little way, he carried through the city aimlessly. I'd been Jedi before, and he only knew of what he had also discovered when they were Jedi years ago. Who were governors on people running in the alleyway, walking under a door along black roads with needle sound. They had looked over and spoke to the crowd, and he said it's taken honorable. He decided to walk closer and closer to Kenobi and Skywalker behind him. But then he looked over the general direction and he said, "There's weapons. I really didn't know you should carry those." And he was shocked when he looked into the pale blue eyes with a serious individual. They were clearly blind.
Another one of
After
those
what they
magical
had,
beams.
the man looked down the board and
There are two
gasped.
of these
He
devices
spoke
this time.
up saying that this was
I
obviously
bet we'll need to.
the two Jedi
That's
masters
one.
parted ways for
Where to find
Anakin
the other?
to be seen better by this blind man as Chewie smiled and asked them three to follow him. Anakin was a bit confused and a little scared, but the group followed him anyways. Chewie spoke up as he explained who they were. He told them that they were the Guardians of the Wills. Dooku nor Obi-Wan had ever heard of this before. Well, Dooku had an understanding about the Guardians of the ancient Jedi ruins, but he didn't know they called themselves Guardians of the Wills. Little did Dooku understand that the womp rat hole that they were about to go into had quite got discovered before he passed it. She would carry on explaining the
Now
way
let's see what's behind that
the
gate.
chosen one was alive. Of course, felt different than it before when he was born. Anakin was extremely confused by the fact that the blind man knew his age, and not even being able to see him or asking him for his own age. As the group went deeper into the tunnels, Chewie carried on, telling them that the Chosen One was prophesied to come to Jedha City, so that they could unlock the long-lost Cavern of the Wills. It was said, as Chewie explained, that the Chosen One would unlock this cavern and be able to unlock the Force himself, with the Guardians and Priestesses of the Force. It would lead the Chosen One down a pathway of unimaginable power, and the resolve to bring complete and full balance to the Force itself. The case began faster as the blind man took the three down in the cavern century old, and then down caverns thousands of years old. Markings of the ancient Jedi lay everywhere in this cavern. There was a mask of one written on the wall, and there were the Guardians of Peace everywhere. The Guardians of the Wills transcribed everything in the ancient galaxy, the wars, the giant Sith, and the disruption of balance. Then there was something that caught Dooku's attention. It was the Guardians and the Band of Sages banishing a force user so powerful they could consume planets into extinction. Though one minute said that Carlos died in a book. The legendary battle master that consumed him, and it appeared from the middle of the city beside the natively, never by the banishing this renewed force. The force was strong with its beings and laws, now more sensitive other than cheaters, and an educational journey with through Jedi. Dooku stopped to press a button on the engage device and began speaking to another Jedi as the Anakin Skywalker battle with Ancient Dooku. Dooku eventually caught up, and they eventually arrived at another next door, and no physically was a hole of some sorts. Chewie looked down and pushed the boy forward, telling him that this was his objective. Even if he wanted to keep this, I chose one to do it. Anakin walked forward and shakily stood before the glass vault. On the vault, there were 4 people, family source, father, a daughter, a son, and a mother. Chewie explained that the being from the powerful in the Force, they held great power within the Force, and they were able to accessorize the balance of said Force. Anakin stepped forward as Chewie told Skywalker to let the Force flow through him, and he would uncover the secret of the wills. Dooku familiar watched as Anakin raise his hand. Had so little training in the Force up until this point, and yet it was still so radical to him. He felt the gears inside the vault twist, and turned with a loud croaking begin. Into the ancient plains, cheering the one component of the ground, but Anakin was strong, quietly, as the vault door opened. Anakin walked in place, and shaking his left, and he was now filled with confidence as he entered the vault. The older man stood up and called Anakin as he looked up at the lightsabers and the ancient items across the walls as Anakin focused on what was in front of him. A light broke through the darkness as it stared into Anakin's soul. It spoke to him, and Anakin alone asking if he was the one.
Better hope it still has the
cautiously, the voice carried on asking if Anakin was ready to have the gift of the one who stood down on the ground. Anakin began cautiously on his entrance. One night of Anakin, one stood forward and showed him from the collected artifacts of the Force. All of them unusual, but there was one place left. It was the ancient tablet of slates, and the other came before him. It was placed there by the Force as he died. Never might be placed at some point. The essence of life one Anakin that he be able to take it with him. Unless he wouldn't show himself until he was truly ready to the Force. Anakin looked at this essence and then it vanished, darkening the room. Cheered, Dooku and Anakin all looked at each other as Anakin grabbed the tablet and one more item that he could feel as he walked out of the room with them. Dooku pointed like down at Skywalker as Chewie was the first to speak. He told the boy that he had accomplished the first leg of his training.
Pudding?
The 2 Jedi would now teach him how to access the secrets of the tablet. Anakin asked Chewie what he knew about this tablet. Chewie told him that he knew nothing about the tablet. He just knew that he was part of the Force and the Force was with him. And on top of that, Chewie understood that the Force was mysterious ways. As he finished telling Anakin that the Guardians of the Wills will always be here in service of the One that through balance of the Force. Anakin smiled as he walked with if you find older Jedi Master had a good he asked where he was to go, and told him the wall part of the bear and safety of the palace. Sure, so that he realized that he was one of the secrets of the family secrets had present Jedi for the longest time. It was here that the imagery of certain powers they were divided by the ancestors. One sure of the cold walls, the powers, and the people which traveled back outside the city and out where their ship landed. Anakin asked what they would do with him as he was with the people they training and they will stand and they understood most on them, and as he found true balance, he couldn't cover the message of the Joker one. Anakin nodded his head as he sat the tablet down and placed his lower object on his belt. Naturally, Anakin could go before so far, as he could paced around the tomb, watching carefully for directions, making sure thinking, and determined as he could about the message that he was shimmering and Skywalker shrugged his shoulders. Let me know, Obi-Wan. Except for the inside of that not found like hard, nor was it found to go not to go. That's what ground. And then we realized that you couldn't really train Anakin like he trained Qui-Gon. Instead of going and standing as a gesture to say silent. Obi-Wan. step back and continue pacing. Someone follow up! It's locked in a second state that is discussed. You have good power. Should have had it walk forward. And now I'm so painful. And it led me to something that's why I despise the devil and put away and say cause of pain. It's part of the wicked symbol that help keep it as one of captain so long. But I have to pay it never been put away. And it's a little bit of one I should be doing. I'm not doing that. It's like it's in his head. It's in the hand. Sure. And shook his head saying that and again, it was time to try. He stood up and all of them again. On the inside of Genesis, she had formed different cameras as a gift and placed his hand on the wall. All of it down, then out of the she would walk through it. He went out from the doors and set the attention. Himself with his eyes across the wall, all the way should have on the wall.
That dagger. What did it do to me?
Not sure. We should get back. We'll talk it through there.
Force. He never felt this growth here before. As a walker, it hurt him and it opened up. Sure, it was just as
your pact has failed, sister, and now thin around metals.
If his daggers be made of red lithium.
Felt lightning surge through his body as he flew back against the wall behind him. He didn't expect such raw power. As he knelt down and stood up, he shook off his shoulders from what that massive surge could have been, and then walked forward and felt his staff.
You said something took you over.
And then felt the ancestors pass into this room
And it's
with colors from all across the galaxy.
I doubt Solus's
dagger
dagger.
force flowed through his soul and his body. He took the staff and realized the potential of the past that lay behind him that could guide the future of the galaxy.
It's a wonderful gift.
The group of Jedi
You must be proud.
continued walking through the
But
desert
I
as
didn't
Anakin
do
moved
anything
his
to
hand
earn
as he
this.
This journey didn't
How
take
could I
more
be
than an
proud?
hour, but they
I don't
rounded
even
the
know
corner
how
of
it
some rough
happened.
terrain. It looked
It's
like
all
to be
a little
soldier, but from the
strange.
bottom, as they
But
rounded
not
the
in a
corner,
bad way.
it was.
I
Anakin moved the
feel
massive robe to the statue and looked into the
connected
sea sand. He saw the same
to
Jedi
the-
master from earlier, though he was doing
to the
something
stone.
incredible. He was levitating
Dwarves
above the
call
ground,
ourselves
the stone
children
surrounding
of the
him,
stone.
and a staff twirling
Some of us
around
have what we
before
call
him.
stone
The flow was
sense.
here,
Those
but
that
he
have it
expected
can
to show
feel
power.
caves,
The three
lyrium
Jedi watched
veins,
toward
and
glow
faults in
as
the
he guided
rock.
the staff to the
I
ground
wasn't
below
one
him.
of them.
It placed him
Maybe
on top of it
the
as he
dagger
allowed the Force
unlocks
to guide
something
him.
hidden.
Flo then
But-
moved himself to the seat
But this is
on
more
his
than
foot,
the stone
as the
sense
staff
I know.
floated above the ground.
I hope you're right that this
He
is a
began to
gift.
aware. He was looking at him. He
I'd
asked
be
Anakin if he was ready
heartbroken
to
if it
learn to
caused
become Force.
problems.
Anakin smiled. He looked back at Dooku and Obi-Wan and asked them if they saw what he just did. Dooku and Kenobi nodded as they smiled.
I trust you have this all
lowered himself
handled.
down gently as he
You
spoke
always
into
have
the
things handled.
Force, holding on to
I
the
just
staff.
hope I
He
can
told
use
Anakin
this
that
magic
learn how
to
use
do
the
what's
Force takes
right.
time. When
I
he
have
learns
faith.
how to use the Force
I'll
correctly,
send word to the Grey
he will
Wardens about the
harness
blight we
a
saw.
much more powerful
And
Force.
then I'm
Flo
gonna lie
gestured
down.
towards Anakin to step
Now we
forward.
need more answers about what the gods are planning.
Flo reached down
I'll
and
find
grabbed
some
it.
place to relax and
Grabbed
try
a
to reach
handful of
Solus and
sand.
Fade.
Looked at Anakin
Good
and asked,
luck.
Anakin,
Try
if
not to
this
let him
hurt
get to you.
Anakin said
It
no.
feels like we're
So
finally
Flo
making
asked
some
Anakin to grab
progress.
a handful of sand.
And
Anakin
I'm not
didn't look
sure
at Dooku
what
and
my new
Obi-Wan.
magic's about,
Anakin then turned
but
his attention around to
I
Flo
know
as the
it
Jedi
feels
Master told Anakin to look at the
right.
sand in his hands. Feel it. Realize what it is. Flo then released the sand into
With
the
their
children's
eyes on
hands.
the Dreadwolf
Appeared in
and the
tiny little
gods he'd set
particles
loose,
and vanished into the
they
air.
couldn't see
Flo
their
then
own
had
personal
Anakin do the
demons
same.
coming to haunt
And
them.
as he watched the particle
Hardin told
vanish,
herself
Flo then
it
gestured
felt
to
right.
Anakin to stand
She
beside
was
him.
connected to the
As he told
stone,
Anakin that
to the
this was
lost
a power
titans,
control.
and all of dwarven
Anakin didn't
history
understand what Flo
with its
said
buried
and
secrets.
he just
How
needed to
could
trust
that
that he had control
be
over himself
anything
and his
but
future.
good?
Anakin still wasn't entirely sure where this could get his parent. So Flo then picked up the sand, and as he did, he explained. When one picks up a group of tiny pieces of sand, it becomes a clump. had become visible, just like the past memories Anakin had of the desert. It was visible, it was tangible, and if Anakin held it, he could mold it into something like a grand statue that stood next to them. Anakin looked at the fallen statue of the Jedi. Logan explained that if he let it go
Guess I
of
should
the
find
past,
some place to try
he
to
could
talk
mold
to
the future.
Solus.
But he had to trust that he could control himself and his fears of the past. Logan let go of the sand, saying that it could not control Anakin, but it could inhibit him if he allowed it to. Dooku then stepped in, saying that if Anakin accepted the balance inside the Force, it would not control him. He could mold whatever he wanted out of it because he could have attained true balance. Anakin and Obi-Wan looked on as they took in all of the information as much as they could. Obi stood up. Anakin kind of understood what this all meant, but what he took from it was not to let the Force or his past control him. Instead, let it become a tool for his growth, so that he could forge it into something incredible. Flo looked at Dooku and then back to Anakin and Kenobi. Obi-Wan placed his hand on Anakin's back and asked if he was ready to learn this balance and power of the Force. Anakin smiled as Obi-Wan and Anakin walked forward, a bit past Dooku and Flo, as the two Jedi Masters watched on. Obi-Wan began trying to open himself up to the possibilities of balance as he tried to teach this to Anakin. At the same time, Dooku and Flo talked. Flo believed Dooku would be able to help both Obi-Wan and Anakin find true balance within themselves. Dooku appreciated the compliment, but then he asked where Flo got the staff from. Flo responded, he got it from the ancients. Flo told Dooku to call him if he ever needed another lesson for Anakin. Dooku thanked him and then watched the Jedi Master lifted his robe above his head and walked with his staff away from the training grounds and into the desert. For the next couple of hours, Kenobi and Anakin were